podcast show. Today I have Martino Wesley, a 16-year veteran and business entrepreneur. So without any further ado, let's just get right into it.
So the thing is, as I touched on stress, right? Being a pilot is either the second or the third most stressful and hardest job in America behind air traffic controllers. And so, a lot of people do not understand. They think that pilots, they're just prima donnas, and they get paid a whole bunch of money for doing nothing. What they don't understand is all of the knowledge that we have to have in our brain and how fast and quickly we need to think and react at a moment's notice. So there was this time that I was flying into Austin. There was weather in Austin because Texas is just, there's a whole bunch of weather, crazy weather there. And so there we are. We're flying fat, dumb, and happy. We're about to land. We're on final approach. And man, the winds are just crazy this day. I don't know what was going on. It was like God was just angry at Austin. And so we were approximately maybe 300 to 350 off of the runway. Coming in, landing, about to land. We get the alert of wind shear. So what wind shear is it is a change in either the speed of the wind or the direction of the wind. That will affect the plane in a very, very dangerous way. Let's say if we hit wind shear and I'm coming in for a landing, what may happen is the wind will push us down. So what will a pilot do if the wind is pushing you down? He wants to counteract that. So he goes up. He compensates to stay up. Well, the thing is once the wind changes, it's drastic. It goes back to normal. Now all of a sudden, we're pitching way up because the wind has changed because we were counteracting that pushing down. So we had to add power. We had to change the attitude of the aircraft to go in a certain way. So now it's going up, and now we're going like this, and maybe now we're going to be falling because there's not enough wind coming over the wind or over the wing. Dangerous, right? Or let's say if the wind is pushing us up. Well, what do? No, we want to keep on going back down to the ground. So we compensate to go down. Well, take away that wind. Now all of a sudden, we're going way down faster than what we really wanted. Boom, we slam down on the ground. So we're trained if we hit wind shear, because the plane will tell us. The plane is smart. Plane has computers designed to go ahead and predict wind shear. If we get that alert, what we're supposed to do is we are supposed to just push full throttle and pitch up and get away from the ground, get out of the wind shear. There we are, 350 feet off the ground, okay? Wind shear. Oh my gosh. Boom. Oh my gosh, I floored it. Put the throttles full force and I'm pitching up to get away. Well, the problem is the plane sunk before it actually started going up. It sank down to about 100 feet. So to put it into perspective, well, plane is flying and we are descending normally at about 750 feet per minute to come on down. So literally we had only seconds before we were going to slam on the ground. Seconds. Got it back up. And we did what you call a go around. We had to come back around to go back into the airport. So what we do is we got out of it. We put the landing gear back up. Okay. We reconfigured our plane to be able to fly again. We tell the tower, hey, we just experienced wind shear. We're going around. Okay. Now they're telling us where we need to go to come back around. It was funny because there was a Southwest plane right behind us. And they're like, hey, did they just say that they experienced wind shear? Yes, they did. And they confirmed it. The winds were just like all over the place. So Southwest was like, okay, we're just going to stay here. So they went off and they just circled around the airport for a little bit until the winds could calm down. We went on and we went right back around and we tried again. Now, here's the crazy thing, and I hope that I can demonstrate it effectively enough. So let's say if I'm looking at you right now, okay? The runway is you. Here's the runway. I'm flying there. Here's the problem. My seat is like this. My hands are over like this, and I'm looking down the runway like this. The plane Instead of going like this, straight ahead, the plane was like that and still flying ahead because of the winds. So we're not perfectly sideways, but we were like, the nose of the plane was not going down the runway. It was off to the side. It's off that way. Okay, so now I'm just like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Let's go. Let's do this. And I was able to basically come down, turn it, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. It was a 3-point touchdown. One side touchdown first, then I got the other side, and then I got the nose. And then now we're safe and sound. What really upset me was this. The last passenger, because what I like to do is if there's something like that, I want to greet the passengers. I want to say, hey, I'm sorry. I apologize, that we kind of had rough landing. It wasn't rough. I actually did really good, but I'm sure they were scared. I'm sorry if I scared you. One passenger gets off and he was like, oh my gosh, I thought we were being hijacked. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're just stupid. What is going on with you? The last passenger, she's there and she says, oh my God, that was the worst flight ever that I've ever had. I am never flying on this airline ever again. And I'm thinking inside my head, I'm like, you just do not understand. I saved your life. And it wasn't even my fault. It's just nature. It's just nature. I mentioned stress. We have the responsibility. I have the responsibility now because my plane is bigger. That plane was only 76 passengers. Now I have a plane that fits 276 passengers and not to mention around 11 crew members, flight attendants, and there's 2 of us pilots. Almost 300 passengers I'm responsible for. 300 lives. If I screw up, grandma, grandpa, they're not coming back home to see little baby Sally. Maybe somebody is on their honeymoon going to Hawaii and they just died. Maybe, Tom is about to go see his grandma for the first time. And I either hurt him or I killed him. There's a lot of stress. That's a lot of stress. People don't understand it. We talk about our families. Our families don't understand all that. All they think is, dude, why are you home late? If I come home and I'm tired and I'm exhausted and all I want to do is just sit in front of the TV and I just want to veg out. But my wife, she wants to talk about, I don't know, how her friend got this brand new car and she doesn't like the color and she's upset and blah, 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 blah. And now all of a sudden, oh, you don't want to listen to me. How come you don't want to engage with me? And I'm sure it's the same for you. Like you said, you could have gone ahead and killed a family, whole family in a car. And maybe it wasn't even your fault. It was their negligence. And that weighs on you. And you get home and you want to just check out. But the family doesn't understand that because they don't understand.
And even just like what I had said earlier, just having someone when you're hauling 40 tons, 80,000 pounds, and someone just do what they think is just
Hmm.
okay to them. They do a brake check in front of
Yes.
you. But for
Yep.
that driver, his heart just went through the ceiling
Yep.
because
Yep.
he knows what could happen. And it
Yep.
doesn't take a lot of speed. I think it's something like 10 miles per hour for us to, completely demolish a car. And so if you're
Yeah.
going 60 miles per hour with that much weight and someone hits their brakes in front, I mean, it's just unimaginable what can
Right.
happen. And so
Right.
you think about that stuff, and a lot of people don't understand that. And I always tell or my ex, I used to always say, it's like, please do not stress me when I'm gone.
Mm.
Whatever happens, try not
Yep.
to give me any kind of worries because
Yep.
I can't focus when I got
Yep.
something on my mind like that. Very dangerous if your mind is not totally concentrating on what you're doing because you just have too much at stake.
Exactly. I've said the same thing. Even during deployment, I'm dodging bullets, rockets, dealing with weather. I've almost been killed by a rocket. I've been shot at, not almost. I was shot at. I thought it was like Star Wars because it was at night and there was tracer fire. It was crazy. Almost got killed by weather. Scary, scary stuff. They don't understand, unfortunately. You try to explain it to them, they don't understand. If you notice, I just had to go ahead and release my breath because Memories popped up.
And we have to just let it out sometimes, man, because no one else really gets this. A lot of
Yeah,
people, they just don't,
yeah,
and it's just, if you don't really live this life, it's really hard
yeah.
to relate to someone who doesn't really live it.
And thinking about it too, it's also our fault too, because what happens is, I know as a soldier, I don't want to tell my wife, I don't want to tell my kids about the crazy, scary things that happened over in a deployment. I don't want to bring home the fact that I almost died because there was turbulence as we were about to fly in or land at an airport. I don't want to do all of that. I want to save them from that. So, of course, they don't understand the things that we go through because we're trying to keep them away from that. So it's partially our fault too. And I can imagine if you're doing that too, you don't obviously want to come home all the time and tell, your loved one, "Oh, dude, I almost hit a car today." You don't want to tell them all that, "Oh my gosh, I was so scared because my brakes overheated and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to stop this 40-ton truck."
Yeah. So what do you do really?
Our mental and health stability. Okay. And one of those stressors is this thing called hypoglycemia. That's where the foods that you eat could cause your body stress, undue stress. Okay. And typically, what happens is with being Army aviators, military aviators, we have the mindset of we need to accomplish the mission. We will throw safety for our own bodies out the window in order to accomplish that mission. There are a multitude of times wherein we're flying, but we're not given a chance to really sit down, eat a healthy square meal because maybe we're waking up at the butt crack of dawn in order to get to the office, go through our mission set, download the different materials, the necessary materials that we need in order to accomplish that flight for the day. Then we have to rush and get out to the aircraft and prepare the aircraft for that day's flight. Now we're flying, and this I'm speaking about. I'm giving you a scenario of when we're deployed, say to Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever around the world. And so, yeah, we get out to the aircraft. Now we're preparing the aircraft. And now, okay, we have to rush and get into the aircraft and start our day. And we could actually fly for 10 hours. 10 hours. And how many times did we actually stop? Maybe we stopped a multitude of times, but we never actually shut down the aircraft, got out, ate lunch, or anything else. In that case, what do? Like I mentioned before, we have these life surviving vests, wherein it has different things packed into the pockets. Maybe we have different cargo pouches that are attached to the vest. So, they'll hold ammo, they'll hold magazines for the weapons, they'll hold medicines for us. Maybe they'll hold survival food and water in case the aircraft goes down and we have to evade for a while. All kind of different things. One of the pouches, a lot of us, what we do is we put little snacks in there. Like I said, we call it pogey bait, wherein it's just snacks that we're able to get to and put it in our mouths there and munch on them while we are flying, actually, over the desert and going these different various places. Typically, this pogey bait is like a protein bar or some candy, something sugary that we can get to and we can eat it. That's going to fill our bellies for a while. Maybe some people put in some beef jerky or something. A lot of times, guys are putting in chips in their bags. We're drinking sodas, we're drinking Gatorades, we're drinking sugary things, putting it all in our bodies so that way we can continue with the mission. I mentioned to you MREs, which are meals ready to eat. These are packages of processed foods that the military gives to the soldiers so that it can sustain them while on the battlefield. Typically, these packets are packed with meals that is 2 to 3,000 calories per packet. And so while we're flying, we'll go ahead, rip up one of those, rip them open, and start eating while we're flying. You know, one guy's on the controls, and the other guy's he's going ahead and he's munching, and then they pass off the controls so the other guy can eat. And we're eating all this food while we're sitting in a helicopter, flying across the desert. We're not exercising, we're not moving, we're just flying. 2,000 to 3,000 calories in that one packet. Now it's interesting. Maybe we got breakfast in the morning. We'll eat one of those MREs for lunch, and then we'll have another dinner. So that 2 to 3,000 calories. Normally, like my body, I'm 6'1", 235 pounds, I believe right now. My normal caloric intake is somewhere in the field of 25 to 3,000 calories, 2,500 to 3,000 calories, if I'm not mistaken. I can just eat one of those MREs, and that's my whole caloric intake for the whole day. Notice I said normally hopefully we get some breakfast. We're eating snacks along the way. We're also eating one of those MREs, and then we'll go back and have dinner. So I've taken probably like 5,000 calories. Ooh, hypoglycemic. If we are stateside and we're not deployed, a lot of times the pilots, we will get snacks from vending machines. Maybe we landed at some kind of a little airport and they've got vending machines. And so we get the snacks out of the vending machines because it's just simple. It's easy. We'll get to the base and there's donuts and oh my gosh, hey, we don't have time. Hurry up and just take some donuts. Okay. Got the donuts. And then we go fly. We land at an airport. Boom. Eat some snacks. Okay, go fly. That's it. Don't have time to sit down and actually have a nice meal. So that's the Army aviation side. Unfortunately, that also ties in with the civilian world as well. So I work for Hawaiian Airlines. I'm a Hawaiian Airlines pilot flying the Airbus 330, big plane. Seats 276 passengers. A lot of times, although when we're flying, we do have access to the first class meals as pilots. A lot of times the pilots, when we land, we don't have access to good meals. Why? Because maybe we're landing really, really late at night or early in the morning. So by the time we get to the hotel room, we're hungry, but all of the restaurants, they're closed. Maybe we have some fast food venues. The fast food venues, that's kind of bad. Sometimes don't even have the fast food venues. So there's been a few nights wherein I have actually gotten to the hotel room and could not eat because there was nothing there. Couldn't find any place to eat. And I didn't feel like walking 10 minutes down the road late at night, like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock midnight, to go get something to eat, to go to the room, to eat in the room, and then have to wake up in the morning. That's not really healthy either. Just eat and go to sleep. So there have been many a nights where I just said, oh, forget about it. I'll just go to sleep. Or maybe we woke up early in the morning because we had an early morning flight. Maybe the hotel that we stayed at, they have free breakfast, but it was so early that the restaurant isn't open. So they're not ready for us. Then by the time we get to the airport restaurants, they're still closed too. So we don't have any food. So we have to wait. Or we got snacks. You know, I'll look at my captain. Hey, did you get anything? No, but I'm going to go over here to Starbucks and get some kind of rolls and a muffin and some sugary coffee. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it. Okay. There are many pilots wherein we're getting to become obese because we're eating all of these sugary foods, unhealthy foods, and then most of the time we're sitting for our jobs. It's kind of like truck driving, you know? I mean, you're driving. Well, guess what? We're flying. It's not like we can get up from our seat and fly. So we're just sitting there. We eat all these sugar foods. We just sit there for prolonged periods of time, and that's it. There's no exercise. Maybe we get to the hotel where we have the layover, and unfortunately, the gym is closed. You get late at night, can't go run because it's late at night. You know what are you gonna do? Go to sleep.
Some people have a faster metabolism and bodies are able to adapt to it. But then some of us, it will gain and just creep up on us.
And I can't speak to the trucking side, but the issue with flying wise, a lot of pilots are older and their metabolism has slowed down significantly. And so you'll see quite often if you're walking through airports, pilots are obese. And it's because of that, for the very reasons that I just pointed out. And they're getting older. I will give you an example. So maybe some of your viewers and listeners, they don't know In and Out. But if you're from California, Nevada, Texas, you know some In and Out. Well, In and Out, when I was younger, I can eat in one session a 6x6. So I will describe that for people who don't know what a 6x6 is. 6x6 is 6 pieces of patties, 6 pieces of cheese, all on one burger. I would eat that, eat fries and a drink. And man, I'm not even full yet. That was in my younger years. Actually, I did that in college, and I was also running track in college. And the doctor, I went one day into the doctor's office, and he said to me, "Martino, you need to gain weight. You only have 5% body fat." I had a high metabolism, and I was running track. So I mean, that food was just going through me. It would just liquefy and it was gone. Now that I'm 51 years old, that is not the case anymore. I look at food and I gain a pound. And being in this profession doesn't really help out. I actively have to try and exercise. As a matter of fact, after we finish this interview, I'm going to go out and try to get some exercise on. I'm going to walk and run probably about 3 miles.
And the commercial, do you have an actual weight limit that you have to
No,
obtain?
no, there is no weight limit. I will say this now. I am not officially saying this is the case, but I will say that I believe sometimes some of the companies they would prefer to have their pilots slimmer because of image wise.
Oh, okay.
Without saying any of the companies' names, there are some companies I believe that they want their pilots to be slim just because of image wise, because the public is they look at the pilots and they have a certain look that a pilot should have inside their head, an image of a pilot. And if you see, a big person with that is obese, overweight, maybe that doesn't fit the image that those passengers may have of the pilots, and so therefore they have a preconceived thought, a preconceived notion that maybe the airline is not as professional as they would prefer them to be. Of course, in the army has become more laxed in the body shapes of the pilots, at least. I've seen multiple severely obese pilots, army pilots, going ahead and flying. However, there are repercussions to them being overweight. Maybe they're going to get some kind of reprimand from their command. They're going to be put on some kind of a weight loss program. They're going to be flagged. Different things may happen.
Well, that is definitely the difference between the trucking as far as them disciplining you or anything like that, because we had a lot of overweight drivers out there. And I was one of them. I had went up to 360 pounds at one time. Yeah. So
Whoa.
yeah, it crept up on me, and I was just driving just normal. And I didn't even realize that it even happened to me. And that's why I talk about some of this stuff, is because a lot of people, they think that's kind of crazy. Oh, how did you gain that much weight and you don't even know it? Like, man, if you're just eating all the time and just constantly eating junk food, it will happen, especially as you
Yeah.
get older.
Now I can say at my airlines, they do give like a little snack box that they put up into the cockpit. In that snack box, they have various fruits. They have various health bars. I can tell you, there's a multitude of pilots that are like, "Nah, I don't want that stuff. I got my own stuff." And so they're breaking out their chips. They're breaking out rice. They're breaking out whatever it is that makes them happy. And I will be honest with you, I'm a victim of that. I'm going to make sure that I have my chocolate or my sweet and sour candies and whatnot. Why? Because I gotta stay up. I gotta stay awake for long flights. When you're flying from Honolulu to Los Angeles, and that's a 5 to 6 hour flight over the Pacific Ocean. All you have to look at are clouds and water. it can be boring. So I need to stay up. I need to stay awake. And how do I do that? I'll be honest with you. Sugar helps.
Yeah, that's how I would do it too. Sometimes I have to take some long drives at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving up to
Hmm.
Oregon, and you're driving through the mountains and everything, but it's early morning, no one's out, and it's just quiet, and you don't really see
Yeah.
anything, and you're just
Yeah.
drinking whatever juice you can drink to stay awake at 2, 3
Yep.
o'clock in the morning. And so that's the
Absolutely.
underside of it that a lot of people don't really expect, especially when they're trying to get into this career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are multiple people that have to have their monsters, have to have their Red Bulls, have to, have all of these energy drinks to stay awake. Oh, I can't function if I don't have my coffee. I need my coffee. Oh, keep it coming. Now, not everybody's going to take their coffee black. I know that coffee black, okay, that's okay. But not everybody's gonna take their coffee black. I know I don't. I'm a foo-foo drinker. I need a whole bunch of sugar and I need a whole bunch of cream in my coffee.
I'm gonna switch it up a little bit here and talk about as far as just being away for a while from your family, dealing with the stress of not being able to be there, especially for main events. Sometimes you got to miss out on stuff. Just the kids growing up. It's a lot of time away from home, and it does kind of pose issues sometimes. I know that I have lost relationships from, a lot of times I'll leave and I'm gone for a while, and that's just a career. That's just you kind of have to accept it, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
So in my life, I had a double whammy. I'm a commercial airline pilot, which takes me away from my family. I'm going to say half the month. So it's quite interesting. I think that it's a double-edged sword. Why do I say that? Anybody that has a 9 to 5 job are typically at their job for 8 to 9 hours, depending on if you get a paid lunch or unpaid lunch. Then a lot of people have to commute into their jobs, which is probably going to be, let's just say, an hour on each side because of traffic. So now you're talking about 10 to 11 hours away from their families. Well, then they go home. They go home and then they're only with their families for a couple of hours before the kids have to go to bed, and then they're too tired and they go to bed. And then they wake up in the morning just in enough time to just take a shower, eat, and leave, right? And then they think, oh my gosh, yay, I get a weekend. Well, sometimes, you know what? Their job is calling them on the weekends because maybe it's like that. When I am off, I am completely off. I will work anywhere from 12 to 18 days in a month. The rest of that time I'm off. And when I'm off, the company cannot call me because it's against the FAA laws. But when I'm gone, I am gone. I am out of sight, out of mind because I'm on a trip. I said that I said it was a double-edged sword. The reason is because a 9 to 5 person, you know what? Even though they're at home, at least their families get to see them every day, but it's only in a couple of hours during the day. Me, when I'm at home, I am at home. But I typically get at least bare minimum 4 more days off than normal person 9 to 5 job because I get at least 12 days off. Where in a normal person, they only get a weekend off. That's 2 days. There's four weeks in a month, right? So that's eight. That's 8 days off. I get 12 days off. They get 8 days off. A lot of times I'm getting 14 days off. So I'm getting almost a whole week more off than the regular 9 to 5 job. But guess what? I'm going to be gone more than they are. See, that's the difference. When I mean gone, I'm like they don't see me. Well, not only a commercial airline pilot, but I'm also in the military. So when I am home, I also have to fly for the military, and I can get deployed, which takes me away from my family a year at a time, and I'm gone a whole year. You talk about relationships. Well, I am currently divorcing my wife of 20 years. And she cites that one of the reasons why she lost love for me is because I was always gone, according to her. It's interesting because being a pilot is the second hardest, I believe, second or third hardest job in America behind being a air traffic controller because of the stress, because of the effects that it can have on your personal life are always gone. There are a multitude, when I say a multitude of pilots that are on their third, fourth, fifth marriages. Multitude. It's crazy. Um, Typically, when you first start off, until you're able to gain that seniority, through longevity with the company, you're not going to be able to see your family during Christmas holidays, Easter holidays, New Year's holidays. You're going to miss your child's baseball games, football games, track meets. You're going to miss all of that, and it weighs on you because you feel like you're letting your family down. And even though your family may say, "Oh, you know what, Dad, don't worry about it. Honey, don't worry about it. It's okay. We understand it." In the back of their mind, they're still like, "Our dad missed another day, another event. My husband or my wife just missed another important event." It weighs on you.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate to that because I got divorced just a couple years ago myself, first marriage, and that was the same situation. The same reason that she gave me too was one of the main reasons I was gone all the time. And so, and before I got married with her, I had a few girlfriends, and it was pretty much the same thing. And go through girlfriend after girlfriend that they tell you that you're just gone all the time, and we don't have
Mm-hmm.
no relationship. You're missing everything, and after a while you start to just you build it up in your head where, because I was in trucking, I was, just retired, but I was truck driver for 23 years. And so after a while, you just start to try to just deal with it in your head in some kind of way because you
Mm-hmm.
already know it and you're kind of anticipating it happening. And you're just
Right.
tolerating it in a way because I know that even guys that I would talk to, they would just say, "Hey, I'm just giving this girl so much money per month so that she has a place, and when I do get home, I have someone to go home to." And
Mm-hmm.
you're gone for weeks or
Mm-hmm.
months at a time or long periods of time, and just to have someone to come home to when you don't have an actual relationship, because you go through some relationships.
On the military side, soldiers, like I remember on my first deployment, one of my soldiers, he found out that his wife was cheating on him during the deployment. And that is the worst thing. That is the that you can actually have happen to you as a soldier, is that you find out that your spouse is cheating on you while you're deployed. Uh, there have been multiple people going through the same issues where their spouses cheat on them because they're gone. They get back home and their loved ones have left. They've just left, or they just say, "You know what? You've changed." That's another thing, because they say that when you each and every time that you go on a deployment, you come back a different person. And I can actually attest to that. I came back a different person just because of the events that you have to go through, the trials and tribulations that you have to struggle through. They change you. And so those soldiers come back different people. They've seen different things, bad things, horrible things. I'm not saying every soldier has done that, but there are some where they have seen these things. Even if they have a light job and they don't have to bear witness to atrocities or anything like bodies getting shot at. Just the fact that they are away from their loved ones changes them. It changes them. One phenomenon that many people do not understand, they don't know about, is it's kind of like a time warp. So, what do I mean by that? Let's say, if you can imagine, everything that you see right now, right up until now, okay, it's good. You've got it all in your memory, okay? And then all of a sudden you disappear. You disappear for a year at a time. For a year, you just go away and you come back. All of your memories are still the same. All your friends, you're talking about, you have all of the scenes in your brain, in your memory of what happened up until you left. And then you get back. And what happens? Your friends are like, yeah, all right, Stan, you back, man. Let's go ahead and let's have a party. Yay, Stan back. And they have a party for you. Remember, all your memories that you had is from a year ago. Well, guess what? Their memories continued on. And so what happens? All of their friends gets together and they start talking about things that just happened. Maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. You left 12 months ago. You have no clue, and they're laughing, they're hooping, and they're hollering, and they're just reminiscing. They're having a great time reminiscing about something that happened 2, 3 months ago, and you have no clue. What happens? You feel left out. Even though everybody got together for you, it's like you're an outsider at your own party. That plays on the mind of people. It really does. Even the family members, like I went away and I got back and my son is talking to his mother about something that happened a couple of weeks ago. I knew nothing about it. Plays on you. Here's a crazy thing. This is crazy that happened. So what happened was during my first deployment, my soon to be ex-wife, she's from Japan. I shipped her home to Japan because I didn't want to worry about her in the States. So her and my son both went to Japan, stayed with my in-laws, right? That was right around the time that my son started learning how to talk, just learning how to talk. So what happens? I get home from the deployment and I go back to Japan to pick up my family. Yes, I'm so excited to see my family. I can't wait to see my son. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I go over to my son and I say, Sky, how are you? And he turns to his mother, and he says in Japanese, what did he say? And I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my gosh. And and so she says to him, hey, how are you? He's glad to see you. And he says in Japanese, oh, I can't understand him. Luckily, I used to live in Japan, so I can kind of get by in Japanese. I had to speak to my son in Japanese. So not only do I have to contend with the fact that this little boy may not really recognize me as his father because I've been gone away from him for a year. He's a young kid. He forgot about me. But I can't even speak to him in my own mother tongue. Plays on your mind. I'm not the only one. There's a multitude of people. So we're talking about the issue of being away because of our professions from our families. That's a big one. Being a soldier, a lot of people don't recognize. Whole family doesn't recognize you. You're different.
Yeah, and it's like that when I come home. When I was coming home, a lot of times it is weird like that. Even though I'll leave for just a couple weeks at a time, and when I come home, kids are running around and everything is, like you said, when you left, it was like this. But even though I still talk to them here and there on the phone at night before I go to sleep, sometimes if I get a chance to, I try to get some type of conversation in. But it's still different when you come back home and you've been gone for those couple of
Hmm.
weeks or so, because you do
Hmm.
miss out on a lot of things that happen and you're trying to catch up with it. And it plays a role on you that you just have to learn to adapt, or either it will take a toll on your body.
Absolutely. So normally what happens is that when we come back from deployment, they will have seminars for the soldiers. Okay, how to reintegrate back into not only civilian life but back into home life. And one of the issues that they talk about is this. So, and I'm sure that you can understand this. As husbands, as fathers, and I apologize. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but I'm a man. I'm going to speak from a male's point of view. We have a idea of how we want our household to be run. And while we're there, we try to run the household that way. If we're gone for a long period of time, what happens is our spouses sometimes, you know what? The way that we go ahead and we want to run the household, it doesn't work for them. When we're there, yes, it works because we're there and we can kind of manipulate the situation to, foster that, to help that. But when we're gone, our spouses are going to be like, hey, no, 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 it don't work for me like that. And so everything gets changed up. And so all of a sudden we come back home and we're like, whoa, I know when I left, things weren't like this. What is going on? And now we get frustrated. We get angry because you know what? We tend to get upset at our spouses for letting the house run amok. We're like, dude, what happened? You know how I like it. You just let you just let it go to pieces now. Well, what happens to the spouses too? Now we're frustrated, and guess what? Now they're frustrated because they're like, hey, dude, you know what? While you were gone, I was running this place. I had it running perfectly, and now all of a sudden you're upset because it's not running the way that you want it. But guess what? It was running the way I wanted, and it still worked. So why are you so mad? Why are you giving me grief? Both parties have to understand and recognize that, so that that way it doesn't cause problems. Unfortunately, it will. It does.
Yeah, it certainly does. And that's another thing, is that when you got one parent that's a little bit more lenient than the other, oh, you used to getting away with this with mom, but now pops is here, and like, wait a minute, I know you didn't just do that, but you
Yes,
got to get your head back into it, and you trying to focus, and it's like, this is not a real reality. In my reality, you would have never done that. And so,
that's right.
you know,
That's right. But what's funny is that then we have to leave again. We get them straight, and then what happens? We leave, and then when we come back, oh my gosh, now you got to retrain them again. What happened, man? It happens like that.
yeah, and that
Yes, it does.
is a tough part to deal with. And a lot of people just
Yes.
don't understand that, is that you just come tolerant after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how
Mm-hmm.
you live your life, is that you just have to be accepting of so many things that normally you wouldn't be. But to deal with
Yes.
constantly traveling and this fast life that we deal with, we have to accept a lot of things that we normally wouldn't, deal with.
You're right. But unfortunately, we understand this. There's a lot of people in our profession hasn't accepted that, has not realized that, or will not accept it either.
Yeah.
They just flat out say, no, I'm not going to do it.
And this is an industry that's a fast-paced industry, that it's not built for everyone. I know a lot of people
Nope.
like to be in it, and even if they could, they couldn't do it if they were able to do it, because it is a
You're right.
certain type of person that can only deal with this type of stuff.
You're right.
And I noticed
You're
that
right.
when I was in trucking too, is that it seemed like a lot of us sort of had the same type of background, as far as,
Hmm.
that it's a toughness that you just kind of have about you, because
Absolutely.
yeah, you can't write this stuff that you're going to deal with, and it just, it's something that you're just going to have to be made for. And I see a lot of guys coming into this industry that it's just, they're just not made for it. They're not going to last more than a couple years, and I can see it. And I didn't see it when I was younger, when I was in it. But I remember one time, this guy, he didn't hire me to haul cars. I was going to be a car hauler, and that was just part of one of the fields that we can go into, car hauling, van hauling. You could do a lot of different things in trucking. And so I was going to try and get into the car hauling. And the guy, I stayed there, I was, going through the training and everything for about a good 2 weeks. And then he just said to me one day, he just said, he gave a little test, and he said something about, if you're in a car that is, like a newer car that's made out of basically what they make these cars out of now, plastic pretty much,
Hmm.
and say like you got a 2024 car versus say like a 1970 something Cadillac. And he said, if you were going
Hmm.
50 miles per hour in the Cadillac, and you were going 50 miles per hour in the new car, and you got into an accident, you ran into a wall, which one would you have a better rate of survival in? And this was a class question. It was a question. And so I said, I would rather be in the big 1950 something Cadillac.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
that was the wrong answer, to make the story
Hmm.
short. That was the wrong answer.
Hmm.
He said it was something about that the cars were made to impact energy.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
the smaller car would be the better car to be in. But I was just a little bit like, I just can't really wrap my head around that. And so basically they just said, well, this job's not for you. So there's a, yeah,
Mm.
that I guess the guy, a lot of people that could see that, and they were accepting of that. they all continued on with the class, but I wasn't, you know, in agreement with these guys. And so, yeah,
Hmm.
they let me go after that.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
come on, man.
Yep.
What does that have to do with driving a truck, though?
Yeah. 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 It's, you know, I think that what it is that it's something about the type of personality that you have. I think it was like
Okay.
a personality trait test because they do give those in a
Okay.
lot of companies. And, you know, I dated a girl back in college. She was in industrial psychology, and she told me about that way back in the early 90s that a lot of companies were going to start doing that. And I started noticing that as I got older, that they do that. They give you these random tests, and it's just random questions, and you don't think anything of it. It's like, they're telling you, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter what question there's no real wrong or right answer. Just put down whatever. But those are personality traits that they're trying to look for.
Actually, I had that with my company now, with Hawaiian Airlines. There was there's a personality trait test that you have to take. And then I also applied for United, and there was one as well with them. So yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, that's going to do it for our show today. So tune in next week for more and new exciting